Hey guys, in this video we're doing the follow-up for the Senton 6S build, and this is the bash and review version, which is part 2 in the series. Now, we've had this for quite a while and we've done some pretty cool stuff with it, and in this video we're going to show you what we've done and then we're going to give you our review at the end, and this will be complete with our 4 questions. Is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? And since this is a discontinued model, we'll still give you the is it worth the money. However, this will include finding one and building it, and then where does it stack up in our collection. This should be a lot of fun this time, guys. Check this out. So this has been a really good vehicle to play with. It's got a lot of power, and I really can't wait to get down inside and tell you what we've learned so far. But first, check out this running footage. So there you go, guys. That's the running footage for the Senton 6S. And if you've been watching the channel, you probably watched us build this one. And just to give those of you that haven't seen that video a chance, this one they no longer make. And we had to find a roller on eBay, and roller's loose. It didn't have a lot of the components. We had to find a bunch of stuff to put it together, and we built it on the channel. This one has a lot of upgrades, and we'll go over that shortly. But I wanted one of these, and when they stopped making them, I was a little disappointed. Having the chance to build one, I jumped on it. Now, the difference being, this is a short course truck, and there are a lot of short course trucks here now that we didn't have earlier, and this is the only one that comes out of the box at 6S. It's a little heavier than the other ones, and we'll give you some weights here in a little bit without battery to let you know what the difference in that is. But there are a few things that we've learned about this truck over that course of time, and we're going to go over that, and we're also going to tell you how it handles compared to the other ones and so forth. So let's get right down into this with what these cars are. And the short course cars are a lot of fun. They're super durable overall, and some are different than others. If you see over here, we've got a pretty good array here from the Techno, and this was a custom build on the channel. The Pro 4 SC10, the Senton 3S, of course the 6S here, we've got the TT Pro here, and of course the Traxxas Ultimate sitting next to that. And that's what we're stacking these up against. And we are fully aware that this is the only 6S car in the group. However, it has the same footprint as the rest of them, so we're going to lump it in with those, because if you're going to go run this, these are likely to be the cars you're going to run against. That being said, let's get right into the weights on each one of these. And of course, these are as they sit, with absolutely no batteries in them. We know this one's upgraded because we did all the upgrades on the channel, so this one's going to weigh more than a stock one would. But since you can't get them anymore, this is all we have to check it from. Now, I'm going to go down the list here really quickly and give you the weights for each car. Don't be surprised when the 6S car is heavier. So here we go. Starting with the Traxxas Ultimate, that one weighs in at 5 pounds, 5 ounces, and that's pretty good for that particular class of vehicle. The Pro 4 from Associated runs in at 5 pounds, 8.5 ounces. The Senton 3S, a bit heavier at 6 pounds, 5 ounces. The Techno SCT 410.3 weighs in at 6 pounds, 8.6 ounces. And the Low CTT Pro comes in at 6 pounds, 12.7 ounces. Now, the Senton 6S weighs in at a staggering 9 pounds, 7.4 ounces. So there's a lot more weight in this one to move around when you're hooking into corners and whatnot. So don't be surprised when it handles a little different than the others. But before we clean off the bench, let's look at one more item throughout the group of the cars, just to show you what the differences are. The body shape on this one is relatively low, and the body shape on this one is also relatively low. And this is, of course, the Ultimate Slash here. And notice the shape on the top, and we can get nice and close here. And it's kind of a smooth look to it, and it's really low on the top here, which means when you flip it, it'll stay flipped. They do sometimes land on their side, but mostly, if you turn one of these upside down, you're walking. That's how that works. Now, the one that seems to work the best in that category is the TT Pro. This one is a lot taller on the top, and it has a lot harder time staying on the top, which lands it on its side. When you land it on its side, turn into the ground, give it some throttle, and it's back on its wheels. So you walk after this one a lot less than you walk after the other ones. So that walk of shame, not so much with the TT Pro. This one here is just as bad as the others. If you get it upside down, you're walking. All right, so with that behind us, let's get down inside this and see what we've done. And if you've watched the channel, you saw how we built it. And if you're curious about the full build on the car, please go back and watch part 1 to this video, and we'll show you exactly what's in there. First off, let's take a look at the body. And it's still in really good shape considering the age of the vehicle. And if you watch the build, you know these cracks were already there, and we hold nothing back at the channel, and this ran with this body the full length of all 8 batteries that we ran through it, and we hold nothing back, and it held up really good. So I'm impressed with the body itself. I think this brace inside had a lot to do with that. Still, the build itself is pretty solid. We didn't break any internal components, but we did have a problem with this. And this is the hot racing differential we had inside of it. And the issue with that was, if you take a look, you'll see this wear point all the way around the outside. Initially, this had little inset grooves that go all the way around. Thought it looked pretty cool, and it's aluminum and it's not really cranked up. It's pretty soft, no big deal. But those little inset grooves have a tendency to grab rocks and all kinds of things. And what happened was, and it happened like several times, this differential would grab a rock and wedge it in between the diff housing and the chassis, and it would lock it down. And then we'd have to unscrew things to get it out because there's that slot in the bottom, and that's right here, that's supposed to allow smaller rocks to pop out through this so it doesn't damage the teeth. But up in front of it where the barrel sits, the casing, there's no such relief right there. And once you wedge a rock in there, it binds it down pretty hard, especially if you're running 6S, because there's a lot of power there, guys. And you see, it wore this clean out all the way across there. This isn't nearly as strong as it used to be, but it's still functioning. So we could stick it in something else, but I'm afraid that same problem will happen in whatever car we stick it in. So this one probably won't get used again. Still, in order to make that work, we went ahead and replaced it with a stock one. So now it has a stock differential in it, and it's got pretty light fluid. We tried a little heavier fluid to get more torque to the rear end, and it just served to make it squirrely. Also, we had some pretty stiff differential fluid in the rear, which also served to make it squirrely. Now keep in mind that we tune these cars for bashing. So there's going to be difference in tune-up for if you're racing, that's one thing. If you're on a groomed track surface, that's something else. If you're trying to get it to handle in all kinds of situations, rough terrain, jumps, and things like that, we found that if you put pretty soft fluid in it, it allows those arms to retract really quickly. It still softens it up and it gives it control, but this can bounce up and drop right back down into a hole, keeping traction, and it seemed to handle a lot better in all the rough conditions. So softer fluid for us made this handle way better. Soft or light fluid in the center diff and the rear differential kept it a little more controllable, less wanting to swap ends and stuff. And we do have a gyro in this one, but it doesn't seem to be as quick as it should. Even though we've got a really fast servo in there, it still seems to have a little delay in that. So we're going to swap it out for another receiver to see if we can get a little better response out of that. Still, at the same time, it does have a Spectrum receiver 6-channel in the box here. It has a 2050 motor. It has the stock gearing in it, and it has 150 amp Spectrum speed control. And overall, that's pretty much the same gear that's in the Typhon. And our Typhons handle and run a little bit faster than this one does. This one is a bit squirrely. It's a bit noodly when you get under the throttle, but if you back it out a little, let's say we drop down to 4S, this becomes a monster, and it's almost as fast. I mean, you could hardly tell the difference because at 6S, it just lights the tires up and it becomes uncontrollable. Once you drop it down to 4S, it becomes controllable, and it's just about as fast as it would be the other way. And of course, we did put the notorious chassis, and this is the EXB chassis made out of that beautiful 7075 T6 aluminum, and it is still perfectly straight, even with all the hardcore bashing we put on it. The bumper on the front, this is just an RPM bumper, and it does a great job, and it fits under the body quite nicely. And this is a T-Bone Racing rear bumper that went on it. That came with the kit when I got it from eBay. So that's pretty much the layout for the car. Everything's nice and clean, everything held up. We literally broke nothing during the entire event, except we did have to change that center differential. So that's one thing. So let's get on to our 4 questions. And if you watch the channel, you know what they are. Question 1, is it fun? Question 2, is it durable? Question 3, is it worth the money? And question 4, where does it stack up? Well, let's start with question number 1. Is this thing fun? Absolutely, this thing is fun. It's a great little truck, and it really does rip, but it's a bit more sketchy than the other ones. Now, when you gear it down, well, gear is the wrong way to put that. If you put the smaller batteries in it, like for example, if you take the Ultimate Slash and you stab a 2S in it, it becomes more controllable. It's not quite as high speed, but it's a little more controllable because it doesn't light the tires up and get out of pocket quite so easily. However, if you want that rush, you go for the 3S battery, you learn to work your throttle a little bit. It's unmatched when you get around the track. This one here, doesn't quite keep up with that because it is pulling a lot more weight around the track, and it's not quite double, but it's substantial. This, even with the tires, this has the 6-pack tires from Durtrax on it, and they work really well up to 4S. When you start going to 6S, we took those off and we put the TLR tires on it from the Typhon, which are the pin track tires. Those hold up to the 6S rating real well, and it handled good. But when you get off into the rough situations, the rough terrain, you get out in nature, it does narrow it up a little bit. The offset on this is just a little bit wider than what you get with the TLR tires, so you get a little more stability out of it. Still, if you're going to try and run the Durtrax tires at 6S, they're going to balloon up and hit the body at 6S, and it really sounds terrible when it over revs like that. So it's one of those things to where you have to balance what tires you're going to use for what you're going to use it for. As far as the basic run goes, on 4S at the track, this thing was fantastic, but still the Ultimate Slash is more controllable and faster. But I know that has a lot to do with the weight. The car itself is brutal. We broke nothing. So in the fun category, it gets a little squirrely, it gets a little sketchy. I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10 for fun, because yes, it's a blast, but it's not top of the pile. And question number 2, is this thing durable? Well, I'd have to say absolutely this is durable. Keep in mind, we did do a lot of upgrading to it with the EXB chassis on it, the aluminum upgrades as far as the chassis braces go. We did put some substantial upgrades on it. However, we literally broke nothing through all of our stuff, which brings this right to 10 out of 10 for durability with the upgrades. I definitely think that was worth it. And question number 3, is this worth the money? Well, that's always subjective. What you get, now if you're looking for the classic car that came out when it came out, you can't get them anymore, so this is going to be a dying breed as far as that goes. You can still get parts for it because it's built on the same platform as the rest of the Arrma cars, but the arms are a little different than the Typhon. They're a little bit shorter and they're getting harder to find. Now, if you can find the car in a roller form or whatever and you can build it, you're going to be into it for quite an amount of money. But if classic, rare dying kind of cars is your thing, I would say it's worth doing if you just got to have one in your collection. However, there's a little something to be thought of when it comes to that, because does this compete with today's 3S platform cars? And guys, I know 6S and 3S, different. Same footprint, same basic thing, just this one's like the big block of the group. That under your belt, having that behind you, think about it like this. You're still just getting a short course truck. Yes, you're getting the big gnarly cool one, but when the Traxxas Ultimate or the Losi TT Pro just flat out performs it on the track and they're just as durable, if that's what you're looking for, then this probably isn't worth the money, because there's a lot of effort that goes into building one when you get it like in parts and putting it together. However, building is part of the hobby and we love that around here. So for us, just the chance to build it made it worth it. So you got to weigh out what it is. For the money spent to build it, it's not all that much more than to buy one. The Ultimate is a really expensive short course truck, but I think it's worth the money because of what you get. However, the TT Pro was less expensive, handles just as good, doesn't wind up upside down as much, and still we were unable to break it. It's still a pretty tough truck. So for value, if you're looking at the historic value of this, in other words, if you've got to have this collector's item in your collection, it's worth the money. But if you're into something you want to bash, have a good time with, be able to get the parts for, then it's not. So that evens out. We're going to give this one 5 out of 10 for value, because it has a rare place in the hobby, but it doesn't cover it all, because what's out there now just simply does a better job of it and doesn't cost quite as much. And question number 4, where does this stack up in our collection? Well, as things stand right now, we have 2 short course trucks, 10th scale cars in our top 10, and our top 10 is a little harder to get into nowadays. So we have the Slash Ultimate in there and we have the Losi TT Pro. Both of them excellent vehicles, a lot of fun to drive. They are 9 and 10. since this one doesn't outperform either of those cars as far as performance goes, it's not any more durable because everything seems to hold up good unless you get heavily out of pocket. I'm gonna say, unfortunately guys, this one's not gonna make the top 10. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It's awesome when you do, and it lets us know how we're doing here at the channel. You know, we got into this short course thing and it's a lot of fun to do. It reminded me how cool 10th scale can be. For the longest time here, we got into the bigger cars, 8th scale, 5th scale, you know, all of that stuff, and they seem to rise to the top of our list. However, we were down to one short course, or not short course, one 10th scale car in our top 10 for quite a while there. And now finally we have 2 of these in our top 10, which is pretty impressive overall. This one here didn't quite make it, but the other ones did. And you know, it's kind of cool. One day a friend of mine came over and we had a ramp and we set it up, and he brought his little child with him, and he was probably about 6, 7 years old, and he had a Traxxas Bandit with him. And we get so used to hitting long ramp jumps and all that stuff that it kind of becomes normal for us. What really brought this back for us is when he hit the ramp for the first time. He hit it with it, and this was a little brushed car. It didn't go very fast, but he hit our 45-degree ramp and the car might have gone 5 feet. Hit the ground, and the joy in his face when he said, "Dad, did you see what I did?" That reminded me how cool this hobby is. A little kid like that flying a mere 5 feet, which is almost just dropping off the ramp, and it sent him through the roof. That's why we do this. This hobby has something for everyone. If you like this type of car, awesome. If you like the big ones, that's awesome. If you like any of the other stuff, there's something for everyone in this hobby. And this channel is geared towards helping new people. That's the thing. We try to help new people. One of the worst things that I can think of, and this isn't against anyone in any of the hobby stores that do this for a living, but the thing is to watch somebody break a simple part and go all the way to the hobby store and have them fix it. I know that's helping them, and I'm all about helping the local community, but when it's a simple part you can fix yourself, we want to show you how to do that so that you can get back up and running as fast as possible. If you guys have one of these Senton 6S's that you like, don't like, or have repaired or modded or whatever, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below and help others along the way. Hey guys, I'm AJ with AJ Jam Studio saying, keep bashing guys.